Welcome to Still in Canada, everyone. And today we're going to do a full grain mash, and it's a bourbon style of mash, so with corn, oats, and barley, malted barley actually. So we'll get right into it, and once again, welcome along. There's two that have already fermented out, and you've seen them already in a previous video. They were done with a liquid yeast, and that's the same grain bill as what you're going to see today. And these two that are going to be made today are also fermenting out, and they're bubbling away beside me right now. And they're using dry yeast in them, and we'll show you what they are in the next video. So for now, stay tuned, and hope you enjoy. Is we have 25 pounds of corn. Now, normally I was just going to do a 20. I've adjusted my recipe for 25 because I wanted to just empty the bag. I have 10 pounds of rolled oat, or it's actually flaked oats there. And I have my malted barley sitting here. And some of it's already been ground up from the last run we did. There's already 5 gallons of water in the boiler. And there's the second 5 gallons right there. So that's ready to go in shortly. And it's on very low. I just poured this in, and my house system has a fairly hot water heater. And I've got it set fairly high because we have no children in the house, so we set it a little bit higher than usual. And I get my up to my temperature pretty quick. So heat's just on good and low. A couple wet elements on there I gotta have a look at, but we'll get that in, get that progressing. While that's warming up, first thing I have to do is I'm going to grind all this corn. Now this is cracked corn, and we're going to grind it so that it is a little bit smaller than that, because we can actually deal with it a whole lot better with using the Amylase. So this is the corn, this is the first part, and I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to let this go in the kettle for 90 minutes at 185 to 190 degrees. And as soon as I get this in, I'm actually going to put the Amylase, the high temperature Amylase in right away, so the alpha Amylase. Now if we look at the cracked corn, now this, guys, this is just a straight feed meal, not a feed meal, like a livestock supply store. So it's cracked corn. And this has worked great for me in the past. I've had no issue with using it. I've always felt I'm leaving sugars behind. Now, if I'm doing the moonshine, which is the corn and sugar, so it's a corn sugar wash, then I'm not so concerned about getting the starches and the conversion out of this. I'm just using the corn for flavoring. That's all that's for. But not this time. This time I'm going straight grains, no sugar whatsoever. So I want to get the most out of this I can. So I set up my barley crusher. And when you're doing this with one person, it just takes a little bit longer to get some things done. But I've already run this through, and you can already see. Now, it's not meal, and it's not flour, but it's, well, maybe it's close to meal. It looks, it's ground up pretty good. So with that, I should have more access to it, and the amylase should convert, and I should get more of the starches out of this. In the batch I did, the test batch of all this, I just decided that I was leaving too much of this intact, and I wanted to break it down a little bit more. The Amylase is working so slick, I just thought this would be a better way to do it. So let me get this ground up. We'll get it poured into the boiler, get the Amylase added to it, and then let that go for 9 minutes. Alright, so we're into the second batch. I just got a little bit left here, so I'm just going to pour this into the hopper. And then grind this up. And now we're in the spot where we have to empty it out, clean it up, and then pour it back in. So I'll be back when I get this ground up, and then we'll get into the boiler.
Okay.
All right, so we've gone through all our corn now. I'm just gonna set that aside. And my oats are already ground up, they're flaked, and a good portion of my barley's already done. So, and that's from the last run. That was just extra we hadn't used. So I still have to grind up some more barley, another few more pounds. I have to weigh that one out. Well, let's get this into the mash tun, and then we'll get it mixed up a bit, and we'll get some of the amylase into here as well. And boy, you can already see this is pretty thick. So I think maybe it's about time to switch over to an electric drill here. So that's how thick this is. It's actually stopping my drill. That is pretty thick. So I think we'll, before I add up the rest of the corn down here, I think I'm going to have to add a little more. I'm going to have to add the amylase now. Let that thin out a bit. All right, give me a second, I'll break that. All right, so we know we're putting in, just over 10 pounds. Actually 25 pounds. So, and you can hear the drill's really struggling with this. And you can see just how thick this is. So when I measured it out and use the directions on the bottle, I'm not going to tell you how much I put into here. It doesn't take a whole lot for this size. And this also accommodates what's down here. Once it's into the liquid, then it's going to stay there. So then you can put a bit into here. Bit out here. That'll get drawn in as well. So you can already see it's really starting to thin out. And the volume of it's starting to go down too. So, look at that now. That's only a few seconds. That's the difference of using this amylase. It breaks down the starches really fast and gives you a usable mash. I'm just going to throw in a little more of this corn that I have down here, and we'll get that going, and we'll just give that the 90 minutes, and then we'll pull that out. And if I have any remaining corn, then I'm going to soak that in as well. Looks like I'm getting pretty full here. Well, once the 90 minutes are done, then I'll cool it down to the 150, and I'll add my both my oats as well as my barley, and it's a malted barley, so I'll add them at the proper temperature. And at that point in time, then I'll add the glucose or the beta amylase. And I don't really need it. I have enough, using the 10 pounds of the malted barley, I have enough diastatic power to convert all the starches to sugar. But what I think is the little bit of the glucose amylase, at the lower end will really help out, just in case the other stuff misses anything. Plus, they say you can add it right to your fermenter, and it's safe to leave in the fermenter. Works best, I believe, this stuff that I'm using works best around 145. So I'm going to be there and probably give it about an hour there. And then we'll cool down and get her into the fermenter. But look at that. That's liquid now. That's the difference in a very short time. All right. Join me when I go to clean this out, and we'll change the grains out for the other stuff. And we'll be back. So we got all the corn in here, and it's coming down and it's loosening up. It was really thick when I had the rest of that barrel in there, but it's really thinned out now, and it's looking pretty good. So now we're just going to let this go for, we've done 90 minutes already, so we're going to let it go for another hour, and we'll stir it every 5 minutes. We'll get this in here. I'm not going to do a constant stir because with this basket, I'm not worried about any scorching. The basket's sitting that far off the bottom, so there is no scorching happening here. So it's just a matter of mixing it all in. Now, did you guys see this Muppet do something really stupid? You should have caught it. You probably all slapped your head, but I didn't notice it until after. This is what I measured all the amylase into. And the recipe I used was basically 4 milliliters per every 10 pounds of corn. So I should have almost had 12 milliliters into here. And I'd set it back here. And then when I was talking to you and I was doing all the mixing, I reached back here and I grabbed my container that had quite a bit into it. So how much it actually had into it, I think I was about there. So yeah, probably triple. I checked, and it looks like it's not going to affect any for flavor or anything else. It just wasted cost. And a bottle of this, a 4-ounce bottle of this, was about $17. So is it going to break the bank? No, not at all. This stuff is what you get out of here. When used properly, the proper amounts, is so economical, it's worthwhile doing. So yeah, simple Muppet moment. It happens. I was misdirected, and being a guy, I can only do one thing at a time. At least that's what the wife always tells me. So we'll check back in a few minutes, and we'll look at this, and we'll get rid of the corn because it'll be done. I've gotten everything out of it I can. I'll sparge the corn out, and then we'll replace the greens. We'll put the barley and the oats in the basket, and we'll let that go for another hour. Right? Back in a bit. All right. So this is quite some time later. It's been stopped now. It's starting to cool down, and there's the corn, and you can see it's well, that was a little mistake, but it's gone from being quite thick to being very loose. Now the only thing you can see, the liquid flowing through and everything else over here at the side. So that's done. That's the amylase. That's just the amylase working. I mean, I shouldn't even, in past, I haven't even been able to move the spoon through here. So I'm pretty good with that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this up, and I'm going to sparge this out a little bit. Get a little bit of stuff out of there. Now I'm going to get the rest of the greens in here. Once you get down to 150 degrees, the oats and the malted barley. And then we'll get at that. So, yeah. There's a little bit of leftover, that's fine. But that really actually looks quite good. I'm quite happy with that. I just love seeing how liquidy it's gone on the sides. Alright, so you see I just lifted it up, and I had someone else stick the 2 tubes underneath there, and it's draining out, and I'm gonna throw in another gallon in there, probably 2 gallons of hot water, just to sparge it out. And for 15 gallons I can still add. I've already added 1 of that, so I've got 4 more gallons I can still add to give me a 15-gallon mix. But I only want to sparge this out, so I'll see if I can get away with just 1 gallon, and then get my other grains in here and get them going. There's the corn now, and you can just see I'm just gonna pour some very hot water down into it and get right through the whole thing. And it's coming in, and I'm looking at what's coming out, the color is coming out as well. It's coming out quite clear then. I'm almost good. Now one more thing I am going to do is I'm going to tamp it a bit. Now they say don't do this, but just a little. So I'm going to spend a little time doing this, just to try and get the most out of what I got here. And that way when I go to carry the grains outside for the animals, I'm not going to drip all over the floor. So the extra grind from the other mash, I had about 2 pounds left of the barley, malted barley. That I poured in here. Here's 10 pounds of the flaked oats. So this is quite fine. We'll just throw this right in. And now I have to mill up another 8 pounds of the malted barley. So I'll just mix this in for a bit and we'll get over here and get this ground up. So that's the barley's all malted up. Not malted up. The malted barley is now all ground up and it's pretty fine. I wanted to try it really fine this time. And I'll just add it into my strainer here. I'm just gonna spoon this in. We'll get the clumps out of this once I start. I may have to use a little electricity on this. This was only 8 pounds that was left in the bucket in order to make up our recipe. Okay, so this is the malted barley and the oats blended together. And I'm going to mix up a little more. I'm going to let it soak in here for a bit. This is at about 140, so we're going to lift that up a little more. I'll bring that up close to 150. And I'm gonna add my glucose amylase. All right, add the glucose.
English.
English should be good.
I know, right?
Done good, yeah. I know do English well tonight. So we're gonna add the beta amylase, and we'll get this mixed in a little bit better. So right now that's just that's a good mix of grains. And it smells wonderful. All right, back to that. All right, so we're pretty much done. We're about almost at 30 gallons here. And I'm just going to do a quick test of the conversion, starch conversion. So I'm going to do tincture of iodine. That's this stuff. And what this stuff does is, when I put a couple of drops in here, you'll see it go black. Once I mix it, if it stays black or darkens it up, then I didn't convert the starches to sugars, because the tincture, the iodine, remains dark whenever it sees starch. So alright, so that's pretty healthy dose in there. Okay, so you see what I mean by it's black. Now I give it a little bit of a stir here. You see that? Pretty much all gone. That's returned to the original color. So that's telling me all the starches are gone. And that's, you know, sugar, all the starches got converted to sugars. And I've tested this, I tasted this, and it really is quite sweet. So now there's no, I didn't add any sugar in this. This is just straight grains. It's the corn, the barley, and the oats. And I used both amylases, and it converted, I would say, almost all the starches. When I did specific gravity, now this is at 100 degrees Fahrenheit right now, and I do have to do the conversions for the proper temperature, because my specific gravity reader is set for 20 degrees Celsius. So I do have to do, there is a mathematical conversion. I'll look it up and do the math. But right now, when I'm testing this in the refractometer, I'm seeing 1.092. Now that to me is exceptionally high, and that's going to be too high for my yeast. Once again, I'll do the math and check it and see if we lower the specific gravity to within, I want to be somewhere around 160 at the highest, 165 for my yeast, just fermenting all of this all grain mix. So so far I'm really impressed. I mean, if this is what the amylase is getting out of the grains into this mixture, I'm more than satisfied. So right now I'm going to move this over to the fermenters, and I'll get the temperature down, and I'll double check it again before I pitch the yeast. And I think I'm going to end up, well, I'm going to be using dry yeast this time. I've got a couple different selections, so I'll show you them. And then we'll probably end up having to do a starter on each one. Alright, so next step. Really thinking I was going to do anything, did you?
Bloopers.